Hey, what's up? My name is Toby and I challenged myself to create an augmented reality game prototype within just 24 hours. And you're seeing currently here what the result of this is. I called it Havoc, and your goal is to play as this very cute little hummingbird and just eat as many flowers as possible. And as you can see, when you open up the game, you will just be able to scan your environment and there will be some procedurally spawned flowers that you can then fly towards and eat. And my goal with this video was just to show how quickly and how easily you can create an augmented reality application within just 24 hours, and then from that prototype up build something as successful as, for example, Pokemon Go. And I gotta admit, I didn't work for 24 hours consecutively as I'm working a day job, but I worked for 6 days in a row and then for 4 hours on each day. So this is not a step-by-step tutorial, but I just want to show you all the things I've been doing, all the templates and presets I used in order to just get this app working and have a valid prototype within just 24 hours. Alright, so for this game, you should definitely have a little bit of experience within the Unity engine, as this is the tool we are going to be using. So next to the Unity engine, we will be using the Lightship ARDK from Niantic, and for that we will need to download the ARDK examples, the mock meshes, the mock environments, as well as the Lightship hub. And then we're just gonna start to create the new project, calling it Havoc for my case, and then just import all the Lightship ARDK stuff, creating a folder for the resources, and then for the ARDK authentication, because this is what we are going to be needing in order to build for and actually just run this AR plugin. By the way, this ARDK is exactly the one that's been used in Pokemon Go, and it's one of the most advanced cross-platform AR plugins that you can get at the moment. Alright, so next up we are going to open the Lightship hub, and here we have a lot of templates and AR presets that we can use in order to just give us a head start. And what I'm looking for is something about meshing, because meshing describes the process of scanning the whole world and building basically a mesh around it so that we can better interact with our objects. And what it's like to have meshing enabled, you can see here in this example. So as you can see, my whole living room here is just being scanned live. Alright, so next up we want to just open the virtual studio, and this will allow us to test everything in editor so we don't have to do a build for our phone every time we want to test something. So next up we're going to install the mock mesh, which is also basically a mock environment that we can work in. So these are all things I'm doing here right now in order to not have to build any time. And this is a great thing about the ARDK as well. We can just test everything inside the editor. And yeah, so let's get this one going and also select a proper material so that the mesh is not going to be invisible, but we can rather just straightly see it in the editor. So first things first, we of course have to switch to our selected platform. So in my case it's iOS, or maybe you're working on Android as well. So just don't forget to switch the platform. And also, of course, when we are using the Lightship ARDK, we need to switch up the rendering pipeline, because they have a proprietary rendering pipeline called ARDK URP. And we got to switch that within the quality settings as well as the graphics settings, so that we can also use some more advanced graphical stuff that we are going to be seeing later on. And if we now just play and launch the game, we can already see that from the template we selected, it will take 1 or 2 seconds, but now we have a scanned mesh environment, and if we click, some presets, some pre-made plants will just spawn there. So this is already a great start, and this will be helping us hugely in creating the AR quite fast. So next up, I'm just going into the ARDK URP assets and just enabling shadows. So we need to do that in order to just make the game look a bit prettier, but it actually in this case is a great element for gameplay, as the player won't know where the objects exactly are when there's no shadows attached. So next up there's a Meshing Garden Chunks intermediate tutorial that I found on the lightship.dev. They have some great resources, and this will already spawn kind of procedurally some objects, some plants on the ground, on the mesh that is going to be created. So I'm just going to take this script as a preset. Again, all links are in the description to find this stuff if you'd want to do the same. And I'm just going to be creating a new script here and just paste in everything from the Lightship website, because next to the meshing, this will already give us a pre-made script to spawn our plants. So I'm just creating the script, opening it up in Visual Studio. Takes a second or two to load. And then we can just basically paste in everything. Don't update, no, not now. And change, of course, the name from the class to match the script that I created. Alright, so if we save this now and attach it to our object, then this would work. But before we're gonna do that, we're just gonna import some assets because we need some plants that we need to spawn. So in order to get started, I just open the package manager and import some of those Synty nature assets. These are not mandatory. You can just use any kind of assets that you build yourself, or for testing purposes you could just use cubes that have different colors, let's say. But I'm going to use the POLYGON nature pack. If you're interested in this one, there's a link in the video description. I like to use them since they look very nice, but they also aren't that demanding, so they work quite well with augmented reality. So then I chose 3 flowers that I really liked from the imported assets, and I'm now going to create some original prefabs so we can do some modulation in order to just spawn them. And then if we are going to the mesh collider, so this is the prefab that is going to be used as a mesh, we can just put on the script, put in our plants, and this should already be quite good to go. So if we just start the game right now, then we will be seeing some plants that are just procedurally spawned onto the mesh, and you can also tweak the settings a little bit to have more or less plants. So next up there's the Hummingbird, and this is also a asset that I found in the Unity Asset Store. So in this case we just want to very quickly create a prototype. It means there's not so much time to create objects and animations ourselves. So I'm using this one as it's already rigged and animated, and it has all the necessary animations that I needed for this game. Alright, so then again, open up the package manager and import the Hummingbird asset. Also, it's great that it's low poly, because in augmented reality we don't have that much headroom regarding the computing resources. So after importing the bird, I just had to convert some of the materials to URP, and then I also had to delete a camera that was somewhere hidden within the bird. After doing that, I imported the input system, the new input system from Unity, in order to create some controls for the bird. And after that was done, I created a basic bird animation controller, which was split to 3 parts. So one for the controls, animation, and movement. So the way that the player controls work, it will just receive the input from the input manager from an action map, and then just invoke events for move up, down, forward, side, and interact. And if you don't have any experience within the new input system, I'd highly recommend to do some tutorials on that, and I'll put a link in the video description from the YouTube videos that I actually used to learn the new input system. So once the player will move the joystick on the screen and the event is going to be invoked, then the player movement will receive the vector data, so how much up, how much down, how much left, how much right was the joystick moved, and based on that we'll just move the bird forward, backward, or to the side, or even up and down. And of course also the interaction with the flowers. And then there's another script that will trigger animations within the animation controller, and this is not so hard. So this is basically how the animator looks like. So we just have certain animations that get triggered with this certain event. So after that We also need to import the joysticks, and this again is an asset that I found. I think it was for free or very cheaply on the asset store. Again, all links in the video description. So I built this little UI here and also just linked all the scripts. Next up, I set up an event system in order to just register all the input that's being done at the default input modules and set this one to the new input system. And then of course I needed to re-add the animator as this was not set to the bird by default. Set up my character controller and use the avatar, and I think basically that was already most of the stuff I needed to do. So if we will then just start the game, we can see that the bird is moving, but it's still a bit big and it's moving quite weirdly, so we have to do some tweaking here. Next up, I wanted to create the possibility to just set up the bird, so it shouldn't just pop up once you start the game, but rather I wanted to have some kind of cursor, and here the AR cursor from the Lightship AR DK was used, and I just created a little custom script so that you basically have a positioning helper, how you want to call it, a cursor, where you can see at what point the bird is going to be spawned, and once you just tap on the screen using the input system, then the bird will be spawned and you'll not be able to spawn a second bird, right? So this was the idea behind it, just created a few custom scripts. And I also wanted to have some indicator that will spawn on the highest vertex of the flower in order to show the player, okay, this is the object you can interact with. And actually here I've been using some ChatGPT to help me out. So I just asked ChatGPT what kind of script he would write in order to get the highest vertex of an object. So he gave me this script and it actually worked quite well. So this is also one advice for me, besides using assets from the asset store and templates such as the ARDK provides with the Lightship hub, just use ChatGPT if you want to get things done quickly. So if we now start the game and don't crash into the geometry, if we click, we have a bird that we can just place and fly around, and also we can use a button to interact with the closest flower. And I also added some little scripts to have a time limit so that you can only have 30 seconds, and also a little end screen that shows the score. And this is basically what I've been doing. So maybe this sounds a lot, but if you have about 1 week of time and some experience within Unity, I think that most people can just get an AR app working really quickly. And I have a lot of ideas of what to do with this app in the future. So you could probably add multiplayer, you can add AI opponents, you could limit the flowers even more to make it more difficult. You could add a game mode where you can only eat a very specific flower, let's say. So there are many things that you can do. You can customize your bird, make it fly faster, make it bigger, smaller. So there's a lot of things you could do right now to make this a really popular game. But for this video, that's it. And I really hope that you could just get some information and some motivation from this video to get going and create your own augmented reality app within just 1 week or a short period amount of time. So thanks a lot for watching and see you next time.